This is part one of mj5. This is Tuesday, August the 9th, from my throne. And I'm using my phone this time just to see if I can squeeze it in and make it shorter, because I did it on the computer the other day and I got carried away in over an hour, but I'm not going to do it that long anymore. This is part 5 of this section of my memoirs, and August the 9th when I did this. Just got a bunch of questions from Lynn that I requested to help me think about what to write about in my past. One of the, as I was saying, where was it? One of the questions was about Pop and Nanny, Ma and Pa, and general remembrances. One thing that comes to mind right now that I haven't thought about in years, probably not more than once or twice since it turned the page, since it happened. This story involved Paul and Pop, or Daddy. Paul had a stroke, and he had to have someone to take care of him or feed him and so forth, and get him up and down, get him to exercise his arms and legs. We had someone to help him for a while, but he had to leave, and there was no one to take his place. And Ma wasn't able. She could cook and feed him, but could not lift Paul and help him walk and exercise. Besides that, I don't know how they'd get along that way. Of course, he didn't have a choice. They didn't have the money to pay someone or put him in a home, so Daddy started doing it. He would work all day and then come home, give Paul his exercise, give him his bath. That was a lot of work, and that was hard on Daddy, but he would do it every day. I really admired him for that. It's more in retrospect on my part, because I understood after the fact how much he cared for Paul to do that for him. He could probably have paid someone a little bit to help him, but he wanted to do it. While Paul was able, he always had a garden, and he worked all day long till late. He would take a break for lunch and lay on the front porch and take a nap after lunch. He would turn the chair over so that the back of it was at an angle so he could rest his back and smoke his pipe, then take a nap, then back to the garden till very late, near the dark usually. He asked me once in a while if I wanted to hope him, H-O-L-P, the old English version, and I didn't. He used the old English word hope for help, but he pronounced it as hope. Let me get this page turned here. When Ma was ready for him to come in and eat, she didn't stand on the front porch and call him out of the garden. She had a loud cowbell, bang-a-bang-a-lang-a-lang-a-lang, and she would go out on the front porch and ring that cowbell. Paul could hear that. It tickled us when she did that. Before he retired, he worked as a carpenter, and he was a good one. When he built something, it was very sturdy, with lots of big nails in it. Heavy to lift. Uncle Clyde would say he didn't need that many nails and big ones. Uncle Clyde was a carpenter also and could do finish work, cabinets especially. And Paul worked on a large building right beside the Yellow Pine Church. It's gone now, and he walked all the way down there and back every day, about 5 miles each way. He wasn't that big and muscular, but he was strong from working so hard all his life. One day we were down at Ma and Paul's house, and there were several of us there, and someone brought us a jar with the lid rusted on it to get somebody to open it. Several of us tried to open it but couldn't. Bubba Paul was there, and he tried to open it, but he couldn't, so he handed it to Paul, who was sitting in a chair. He was sitting beside us, and Bubba Paul said, "Hey, Paul, see if you can open it for us." He was laughing in that high-pitched voice of his, not really believing Paul could do it. Now, I can't describe the scene of Paul reaching out with a trembling, shaking hand and taking a jar in his left hand, taking that jar and putting his right hand on top of the jar lid. And he was trembling because of his old age, you know. He gripped it tightly, shaking, and started to turn the lid of the jar slowly. And I got 2 pages that time. And it wasn't but a second or two, and it seemed like it do that. Seemed like you could see the rust flakes off of it as he was gradually broke it. The lid slowly, he kept, and it started turning with the bits of rust flaking off. With both hands trembling, he unscrewed the lid and handed it to us. We all guffawed. Paul never changed expression from the time it was handed to him till he handed it back, open. Boy, we all changed. We all changed ours. What about thinking about it? We all changed ours. Well, I don't know what I meant by that. Really falling out laughing. Changed our mind, I guess. Bubba was hitting the high notes. He loved to sit, and then Bubba was doing all the yip, 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 and thought Paul couldn't open that. It seemed like I've done this rumble before, but I don't believe I could have, so, or maybe some of this, I'm hitting a block here at the time. But anyway, I'm in the middle of this page. Paul loved to sit in the swing on the front porch and smoke his pipe and talk as if he had anyone, that is, smoke his pipe and talk if he had anyone to listen to him. Once in a while, I'd sit in the swing with him and listen to him, but he would pause between sentences and puff on his pipe and take forever before he spoke again. Being a young boy, my ability to sit there and listen it wasn't me. Of course, his stories weren't interesting to me, but I knew he needed someone to talk to besides Mom. The other thing I remember about Paul was his before daylight coffee bean grinding. Yeah, I remember telling somebody this before. Getting ready to make very strong coffee. All of us, when the kids were in the adjoining bedroom in bed with Mom, I can still remember the grinding hand crank coffee grinder sound and the smell of coffee at daylight. It actually smelled good to me, but at my age, I didn't drink it. I can't remember for sure how many of us were in Ma's feather bed, but we were packed. We lay crossways like firewood on a rack. There were 7 of us, grandkids, but I don't think all of us were in there at one time. And I don't think it's that big enough. Anyway, it seemed like it to me. Let's see now. Daddy's mother had, we 3, Miss Red, I can't read my writing. Daddy and Mother had 3 kids. It was myself, Leon, and Sam. Uncle Carl didn't have any. Uncle Raymond and Aunt Louise had Cecil and Francis. Uncle Clyde and Aunt Maggie had Andrew and Ronald. That's 7 of us grandkids. So there wasn't that many all in Ma's bed, but there were way too many for comfort. Plus, we sank down in that feather mattress and out of sight almost. In the wintertime, Ma would heat up an iron that she ironed clothes with and wrap it in towels or thick cloth and put them at the foot of the bed under covers to keep our feet warm. You can imagine how cold that big old house would get with no insulation in the walls, high ceilings on the heaters and on the floor, and fireplaces, back-to-back fireplaces we had then. But they eventually closed one of them, the fireplaces. Ma would sometimes heat up bags of salt and put them at the front of the bed. At the foot, not the front. I'm having trouble reading this morning. Put those at the foot of the bed. Hey, I just thought about the slop jar. That's what a pee and poop container was called back then. Boy, was it cold to sit on. Then when you sit on it and your bowels move, the water could slosh up on your rear end. Jimmy Dickens wrote a song about this experience, and he was exactly right on with it. And like I said, I vaguely remember, seemed like I've done it. Maybe it's because I told it so many times, at least I remember it. Or maybe not exactly, and leave something out. But here are the words of the title of the song was Sleeping at the Foot of the Bed. That reminded me of us in the bed with Ma. Did you ever sleep at the foot of the bed when the weather was bad and cold? When the wind was whistling around the house, the moon was yellow as gold. You give up your good warm mattress to Aunt Lizzie and Uncle Fred. Too many kinfolks on a bad night, sleeping at the foot of the bed. Now picture this next line of the song. A cold toenail scratching your back and a footboard scrubbing your head. I tell you folks, you got my nanny goat sleeping at the foot of the bed. Oh, this is Sunday night, August the 14th, 2016. Well, as usual, I don't really have anything to write about, so I'll take off on a thought that came to me while watching 60 Minutes on TV.